never thought with you. Till McDonald's the baddest that I would turn to. CEO with the shit that's a dope motherfucker. He'll always win. There's no going under. The top of the crown resting on his head. The beast is alive. He'll never be dead. If he dreamt before, bring it back to life. Push harder for it. Let us survive. Show courage and strength. It's okay to be scared, but don't let it stop you. Always stay prepared. Build someone's school. They're just not beginning. Winners fucking win. Losers talk about winning.
Welcome to the Bearded Beast Show. My name is Bill, and I am the Bearded Beast. Fasten your seatbelts. I have an amazing episode for you today. One you're not going to want to miss. This person is very highly energetic. Dave Albin, CEO of Firewalk Productions. Dave, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Your energy is second to none.
Thanks, Bill. Dude, I'm humbled as hell to be here on your show, man. And knowing what I know about you, I said it earlier, man, I should be interviewing you.
Well, maybe one day we'll do that. But
absolutely.
Can you do me a little favor? Explain who you are, what you do, and a little bit of background, because your backstory is a story that people need to hear. Because when you are in your lowest moments, and you're going to explain what happened to you, but a lot of times people don't get the end result that you got. And we need to make sure that people understand that no matter how low you are, there's always an out, right?
Yes. Yeah, there is. Well, so to bring it to that point, other than, I was born in Hollywood, California. I was born to a single mom. She had two other sons. My dad had committed suicide 2 months before I was born, simply because they put a plate in his head. He injured his head. He was a pilot in Korea.
Oh my God.
We don't know what happened, right? Yeah. So he had a lot of pain in his head. And one day he told my mom, he said, hey, he complained about it a lot. And apparently one day he said, I'm going to the grocery store, and he never came back. We never saw or heard from him again.
Oh, wow.
So mom, tried to do the best she could. She was a server at the Fremont Hotel in downtown Hollywood. And, at the end of the day, she couldn't afford me. It was me, my two half brothers, and my grandmother were all living in a 1-bedroom apartment right across the street from Hollywood High School. So she did a wonderful thing, man. She committed the ultimate act of love, and she put me up for adoption. And her sister, my aunt and uncle, adopted me.
Wow.
And so, long story short there, it was a great life from 5 to 11. And then when I was 11 on the first day of summer, they brought me in the kitchen and sat down and said they needed to talk to me. And what they told me was, they said, David, we need to tell you that we're not your parents. And so, it's like, what the hell are you talking? What do you mean you're not my parents? Of course you're my parents. So that, and that's kind of where my life took a hard right turn. Shortly after they told me that, they both started drinking. They swore off when they adopted me at 5, and now I'm 11, and they both started drinking again. And that's where things started to get ugly. And that's where I was introduced to alcohol for the first time. Mm. And so one day they were gone. Back in the 60s, Bill, your parents could leave a kid home.
Oh,
they did it all the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So they just call the neighbor across the street and say, hey, Joanne, we're going to the grocery store. David's at home. If he needs anything, come over, right? Yeah, of course. And so all the neighbors did that with kids back then. And so when they left, I knew where the booze was. And I kept watching them go and drinking it. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. It's freaking me out. And so they left, and I went in and I opened the cabinet where the booze was, and I pulled out this big old half-gallon of brandy. They were drinking brandy. And I poured it in a coffee cup about half full, and I downed it, Bill.
Wow.
I mean, right at 11 years old. And it was like pouring rocket fuel in me. It was insane. I was an alcoholic on the spot. I never had a chance. I never drank normal ever. From that moment, I drank like that. My patterns of drinking were like that. Well, it just escalated. It got worse. It interfered in school. My parents were drinking like crazy. I had to deal with my dad who got violent and all that, right? So you're dealing with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Got kicked out of high school, started hanging with the wrong crowds, started doing drugs, started hanging around drug dealers, started hanging around prostitutes and pimps and gang members. And that was the direction my life was going. And then on June 8th, of 1988, I had married a woman who was a bartender, right? Go figure. She had 3 kids, and I really loved these kids. And I thought, you know what? If I marry this woman, I'm pretty sure I can help myself here. I can help deal with my drug addiction and my alcoholism. And yes and no. I mean, I changed a little bit. I was a little bit more conscious about what I was doing around them and about, just my life in general. But on June 8th of 1988, I woke up that morning and just grossly addicted to drugs and alcohol. Heroin, cocaine, alcohol. I was smoking cigarettes. And I don't know what it was, but that day I said, that's it. I tapped out. I'm like, I can't not do this anymore. This is no way to live your life. I was in excruciating pain. I mean, physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. And I'm like, I can't, it stops today. This is it. I'm out. And so the only thing I knew to do was to put a bullet in my head. It was the only thing that made sense.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know when I pull that trigger, it's over. It's done. I'm not going to feel any pain. I'm not worried about it. This idea of there's a heaven and hell. I just know that the physical and the emotional pain would come to an end. And as I loaded the pistol, I stuck it in my mouth. Just as I'm getting ready to pull that trigger, I go, dude, what's going to happen when these kids, your stepkids, come down here into the basement and they see your brains all over the wall?
Yeah.
You can't do that to them, man. That's wrong. They don't deserve that. And I didn't even know what PTSD. We didn't even know what PTSD was back then. All I knew is that it would be a life-changing, horrible experience for them. It would go running through the school system, all the neighbors, the media, all of that. And I can't do that to them. So the next thing I know, I go, okay, well then what are you going to do? And I'm like, I know what, I'll call Alcoholics Anonymous. And what's really interesting about that moment, Bill, is I didn't even know who the hell AA was. I don't know where that thought came from. I had no associations to Alcoholics Anonymous, never been there, never knew anybody that was there, nothing. And I to this day, I'm not really sure, other than, it was a divine thought, right, that it happened. So I picked up the phone and I called AA, and I got this wonderful woman on the phone who I affectionately call Madge. And Madge and she was kicking my butt, man. And she talked like this. And and I'm guessing she probably smoked, Pall Mall or Camel non-filters 3 packs a day. She had to. It was her voice, right? So apparently I must have done a decent job of convincing her that I wanted help, because she sent a guy to come pick me up. And this gentleman by the name of Lauren came and picked me up, and he took me to an all-men's group in Fairfax, Virginia. It's right outside of D.C., and I went to 4 meetings that first day on June 8th. I went to a 12:30, a 4:30, a 6:30, and an 8:30. And they signed a big book for me. And these guys, being an all-men's group, they just wrote their name and their phone number. And then they gave me a living sober book, and they did the same thing. So I went home that night, and it was excruciating. I wanted a drink. I wanted a drug. Every living second, I was going through hardcore withdrawals. Well, the next morning, my phone rings at like 8 o'clock, and it's John from AA. And he's like, hey, good morning. How you feeling? I'm like, what do you mean how am I feeling? I want to kill something. I might start with you, right? And he's like, yeah, you're going to be okay. I'm going to come over and get you. We'll go to breakfast. I'll take you to an AA meeting. So he did. And we went to like 3 or 4 meetings that day on day 2. Well, day 2 turned into a week. A week turned into a month. And then a month, I got my chip. It's a little chip that said 1 month, and then I got one at 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then I got one at 1 year. And so I'd gone a whole year without taking a drink or a drug. Well, during that recovery process, I had insomnia, so my sleep patterns were all over the place. I was up late, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning all the time. And one night I was up, and there he is, Mr. Infomercial himself, Tony Robbins, Guilty Ranker. Right? Selling personal power, a 30-day program for total success is how he sold it. And I'm watching this guy and I'm going, what a pompous ass this guy is, man. Are you kidding me? He's all motivated, and he's all encouraging, and I'm miserable, right? But he said a couple things, Bill, that really got me. One he said was, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And I went, whoa, that's pretty profound, because I used to tell myself that's why I drank. I drank to either avoid pain or gain pleasure. And then, years before I actually went to AA, that left me anyway. He wasn't doing any of that. I was just maintenance drinking. And then here's what he said that really got me. He said the two driving forces in your life, we make decisions out of inspiration or desperation.
Yep.
And I went, holy shit. Well, I'm pretty desperate. So, maybe I had to listen to this guy. So I bought the program. I think it was like $179, excuse me, on my American Express. And they sent me the program. So it's a tape program. You go through it for 30 days. And it came on little white things called cassette tapes. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so your audience won't even know what those are, man. They'll have to Google that.
No, 3/4 of them probably won't.
Right? Well, if you go to the Smithsonian, you'll know what they are. So I plug in the tapes, and I started doing what the man taught me to do. And it worked. And I went through the entire program. Well, so one of my good buddies in AA was like, he was watching me. He's like, dude, what are you doing? And what was happening is I was taking AA, the 12 steps and the 12 traditions and the personal power industry, and I was merging them together at the same time. So I was like getting further faster, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I started a business. My attitude turned around. I just felt inspired and encouraged for one of the first times in my life. And so my buddy's like, dude, what are you doing? I go, well, I listened to a program by this guy by the name Tony Robbins. And he goes, I know, I've heard of Tony Robbins. I've got his book. And he goes, yeah, so the program, huh? And I go, yeah. I go, you want to borrow it? I'll let you use it. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to. So I gave it to him. And this is, again, like 88, 89. Well, 6 years later, 1995, my buddy Dan calls me. He goes, hey, man, I wanted to ask you, did you know Tony Robbins is coming to town live? And I said, no, man, I had no idea. He goes, dude, come on. You got me into this. We got to go. And I'm like, well, what's the date? And I go, okay, I'm available. He goes, great. You're in? Yeah, I'm in. He goes, I'll call you back. He calls me back an hour later and he goes, done. We pick up the tickets at will call. Here's what they told me to tell you to do and me. 1, bring snacks. We're going to spend a lot of time in the room. What an understatement that was. Drink a lot of water. Hydrate. You're going to need to stay really hydrated. Okay. Bring a good attitude and be ready to play full out. I said, Dan, how much was the ticket? And he said, $700. And I go, $700? He goes, yeah. I go, well, don't worry, dude. I'll play full out. Right? What's that like now? $7,000? So the big day comes. We get there. Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. And the next thing I know, oh, by the way, let me back up. I left off one part. When he's talking to me, he goes, oh, and just as I'm getting ready to hang up, right? He's telling me about what we need to do. He goes, oh, by the way, we're going to be doing a firewalk. And I remember thinking, oh, hell no. No. And I'm, by the way, Bill, I'm saying this in my head, right? So I'm not saying this to my buddy Dan.
So you knew what that was, right?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. That's the interesting point. I'm saying no to something. I don't even know what the hell it is. But I know one thing. I ain't doing it. Right? It's like, right? It's like, and that's interesting. How often do we say no to something out of fear? We don't even know really what we're saying no to.
Yeah, too often.
Right? All the time.
All the time.
So again, we get there. Tony takes the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon. And the next thing I know, it's after midnight.
Wow.
I've been in a room, Dan and I have been in a room with this guy for 10 hours. And all of a sudden, Tony goes, take your shoes off. I remember thinking, oh, no, pal, you're not tricking me. I don't think so. And by the way, the seminar, there's 3,500 people at this event.
Wow.
And everybody's taking their shoes off. And I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, crap, right? No. What are you people doing? Don't do that. Right? And I'm thinking, and I'm going, okay, well, now you got a dilemma. If you don't take your shoes off and you go out there, everybody's going to see you.
Yep.
and they're going to know you're chickening out. So I'm like, yeah, we can't have that. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take my shoes off and I'll fake it. And I'll just go and hide out somewhere in the back. No one's ever going to know. Or at least that's what I thought. So the next thing we know, after we take our shoes off, he gets everybody chanting, right? Everybody's clapping and they're going, yes, yes, yes. Yep. And 3,500 people, and you're going, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So, it's just really intense. Well, when you walk outside and you get outside into this giant parking lot where he set the stage for this Firewalk, he's got African drummers, right? So it's dun, 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 and everybody's clapping, yes, yes, and you're walking out there going, oh, this is insane. I mean, it's just really intense is all I can say. So we get out there, and when I got out there, over in the corner, they had built this giant fire. It's huge. It's probably the pit where they built it's probably 30 feet wide, and it's got to be 60, 70 feet long.
Damn.
And what they did is, right, they lit that thing at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it burnt all day.
Wow.
So all the coal, they use hardwood, right? So it burns all day, and it just renders this big, giant, beautiful pile of coals. Well, when you got 3,500 people, what they do is they would take wheelbarrows, and then they would shovel all coals in a wheelbarrow, and then they'd bring the wheelbarrow in between two lanes of sod, a fire lane, if you will. It's about 3 feet wide and maybe 18 feet long. And then they put the wheelbarrow in the middle, and they take a shovel, and they would sprinkle those coals on top of that grass. Mm-hmm. And that's what you walked on. Well, I'm going to go hide in the back because that's what I want to do. I'm not doing this Firewalk.
Well, you think it would be easy to hide in 3,500 people, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. But guess what? Tony, he wants to make sure that he does everything he can to make sure you go through that experience.
Yep.
Because firewalking, first of all, has been around 1,000 years. It's been used by the Tahitians and the Polynesians, the Hawaiians, the people of India. I mean, the Native American Indians, the Indo-Europeans.
Wow. The
Indo-Europeans used to do a firewalk before the men would go into battle. So as a warrior, the night before, you had to do a firewalk. And if you didn't get to go into battle, and you would disgrace your family.
Oh, wow.
Right. So if we look at it as a rite of passage, as a ceremonial graduation, that kind of a thing, Tony's using it as a motivational moment because he knows it's going to be transformational. He knows it'll create a paradigm shift. He studied it intensely. So he wants to do everything he can to get you across those coals. So what he does is that he trains people to go find people like me hiding out in the back. Literally.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm back there minding my own business, and all of a sudden here comes this dude. And he makes eye contact with me. And apparently Tony must train him. When you make eye contact with somebody, don't take your eyes off them.
Yep.
Right? Because now he's coming at me. And he gets about 20 feet from me, and he kind of leans into me, right, with a puzzled look on his face. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And when we're not okay, what do we say?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I'm good. All good here, bro. No worries. I got this, right? And all of a sudden this guy goes, "So are you going to walk tonight?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." Like, what? Didn't you get the memo? How would you not know that? I'm in the back, dude. And he goes, hey, that's not a problem. It's cool. He goes, "We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do." And I thought, oh, wow, okay, I like this guy. He's going to get me out of here. And then he asked me a question. Changed my life forever. I don't know who this guy is to this day. I owe him my life, if you will. Literally, I wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for him.
Wow.
Because he turned to me and he said, "Well, wouldn't you at least like to watch?" And I thought, well, yeah, sure. I'd love to watch these people burn their feet off. This should be fun.
I got it. He got you. He got you up front, right?
He got me. And he goes, "Well, listen, you can't see anything. You can't see anything from back here.
Oh.
You're 100 yards away." He said, "Just get in line, right? And eventually you'll get up close enough where you'll be able to see it." Well, now in his defense, he's telling the truth. I can't see anything. I got 3,500 people standing in front of me.
Yeah.
I can't see anything. So I get in line and I'm kind of walking along and, again, drums, dun, 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 dun. And everybody's chanting, yes, yes. And now people are walking and you hear them screaming. It almost sounds like they're in pain. There's a fine line between exhilaration and pain when you're screaming, right? And so all of a sudden I'm kind of walking along and this guy comes up to me and he whispers in my ear. And he says, he knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. And all of a sudden, pew, this guy's gone into the night. I'm like, what the hell was that? And so I'm walking along. And all of a sudden I get to a point, Bill, where I can't see in front of me, but I can see at an angle. And they're doing it. Every race, creed, and color are doing it. And they're walking on hot coals. And my brain's freaking. I got no answers for this. I've never seen anything like this. I have no idea what to think. What's it all for? What metaphorically, what's going on? I mean, your brain is just going a million miles an hour. And so now I'm watching these people walk at it, that I'm looking over here at this angle and I'm just mesmerized. I'm totally in a trance. I'm not paying attention to what's in front of me at all. And all of a sudden, boom, there I am. Guess where I am?
Oh, no. You're at the
Oh,
front. You're
yes.
at the front of the line.
I'm at the front of the line. And I look down at this 3 feet wide lane, 18 feet long, full of red coals. And it's a beautiful night. They're glowing bright red. There's a wheelbarrow there. You can feel the heat coming off. And I am now staring into the abyss.
So, Dave,
And
you must have been so immersed in what you were watching that you didn't even realize you were moving forward, right? Like you were moving forward to the front of the line.
Right. And again, I was so mesmerized by what I was watching at an angle, I wasn't paying attention to anything that was in front of me. I'm just kind of moving along like cattle going to slaughter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right? So, and so I'm staring into the abyss. Well, there's a trainer standing there. And all of a sudden he goes, eyes up. And I'm like, oh, shit. He kind of screamed at me, startled me, right? And I bring my eyes up. Well, duh. So you're in a room. I'm in a room with Tony for 10 hours. Guess what he teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up.
Yep.
Apparently I'm a slow learner. And because he's like, look, don't stare at what you fear. That's not how you do it in life. You have to look past your fear to the reward on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically fear is nothing more than exhilaration without the breath, right? So I'm not breathing, I'm holding my breath, and I literally could feel my heart pumping in my chest. I thought it was going to jump out. I mean, I've never been so scared in my entire life. And so over the trainer, so now my eyes up and the trainer goes, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I threw both hands and I went, yes. Well, he could tell I was leaving a lot on the table. I was not in a peak state.
Yep.
And so he kind of screamed at me, right? He goes, stronger. And I threw my hands in the air and I screamed yes as loud as I could. And all of a sudden he goes, go, go, go. And I took off. Well, here's the first thing I learned about firewalking. When you take the first step, kind of metaphorically like life,
mm-hmm.
oh, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I guarantee you. You're not going to stop on a bed of coals that are 1,000 degrees and think about it. You're headed towards the end. Well, when I got to the end, Tony positions two people at the end and they lock arms and they stop you. And they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And so I'm kind of celebrating. I did it. And I'm all excited. And I look back and the coals are bright red. And all of a sudden it dawns on me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm burnt really, really bad. Oh my gosh, holy crap. And I lift up my right foot and I look at it. It's dirty, but there's no burns.
Wow.
Oh, it's my other foot. It's burnt really bad. I pull it up, I look at it. Yeah, it's dirty, but there's no burns. So now I've just walked on coals that are 1,000 degrees and I don't have a flipping clue how I did it.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
Ever done something like that? You do something really cool and you go, hey, yeah, man, that's me. I did that. You don't even have a clue how you did it. Well, so now everybody's, and it's exhilarating. Right there on the spot. You feel like you can conquer anything after that. And it's just an incredible feeling is all I can say. Well, But where it gets really interesting was the next day. So we cut that because this is a 4-day event. That was day one.
All right.
Now we're going into day 2, right?
All right. So it's 4 days.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you how many days it was.
Yeah, 4 days. UPW, Unleash the Power Within, the Firewalk Experience is the name of the event.
All right.
So now we're going to the day 2. We're all 3,500 people. We're standing in the foyer. We're getting ready to go into the venue, and they're just staging us for this, right? And I'd never seen or witnessed anything, felt anything like it in my life. People were hugging. They were laughing. They were crying. These are strangers.
Yeah.
Nobody knows anybody. I'd never seen people get along like this humanistically. Never saw anything like it in my life. And I've never seen anything like it in my life except for a Tony Robbins seminar. So that's when I fell in love. I'm like, okay, what happened? All these people, they're obviously the Firewalk raised their self-worth and it raised their frequency to a whole nother level. And so when you're in a group of people like that and you can feel the energy of that, it is a spectacular, magical experience is all I can say.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So, it has to be.
It is, man. It's unbelievable. And that's what got me. I'm like, so what happened? How did we get here? Did the Firewalk do that? I'm just really trying to get it through my head of what just happened. And so at the event, one of Tony's trainers, I was chatting with him and I found out that Tony uses about 300 volunteers for an event this size. Mm-hmm. And so this trainer, Ted, said, well, hey man, if you like to consider being one of these volunteers, here's all you got to do when you get home. Call Robbins Research. They'll send you an application, fill it out, send it back in, and they might choose you to come do this. And I went, okay, because he's got about 300 total, but about 50 or 60 of them are outside on what's called the fire building team.
Okay.
And that's what I really wanted, right? So when I fill it out, yeah, I got a military background. Yeah, I got a security background. Yeah, I live on a farm, so I know tools. I know how to split wood. Yeah. So I was a shoo-in. Well, I got accepted. And the first event, they saw that I had a security and military background. So they pulled me into the security team as part of the detail. And so I was there to help take care of Tony's celebrities, which was pretty cool, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then they also put me on the fire building team. Now, this is in 1995, right after the event. Well, they hired me as a subcontractor to help with the celebrities. And then they actually put me in a position as the assistant fire captain in 1996 to be one of the major players on the fire team. Well, in 2003, Tony's got an event called Date with Destiny. There's no Firewalk at this one, but there's a lot of celebrities.
Yep.
And so we were at the Atlantis Hotel in the Bahamas. And when I landed and got to my room, my phone rang and the vice president of production said, hey, Dave, you're in town. Yeah, I'm here. She goes, hey, would you come to the office? Tony wants to talk to you. And the next thing I know, Tony's offering me the position as fire captain. And what that meant was, right? Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was like he wanted me to take over all of his firewalks globally. So I'm like, well, Tony, I can't do that. Telling Tony Robbins no, right? He was like, so he's like, you can't or you won't. I'm going, I can't. And he's like, why? And I said, because I homeschool my kids. And they were like, oh, wow. Okay, well, that makes sense. So, all right, well, what if we pay to have your family travel with us? Would that make a difference? And I'm like, well, yeah, I think it would make a difference, of course. So the next thing I know, man, my 6-year-old daughter, my 9-year-old son, and my wife at the time were on the road with Tony Robbins. In fact, when I had the discussion, when I called home to tell my family what was going on, my son Davey was 9. He's like, hey, Dad, where's our first event? And I said, Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
And so Yeah. So there it went, man. That was in 2003.
So
I took over all the Firewalks.
So 1 second, because I want my listeners to really listen to what you're saying. You went from putting a gun in your mouth to now leading all of Tony Robbins' Firewalks.
Yes.
So that decision that you made and that conscious awareness that you had to actually have compassion about thinking about what would this look like if my stepkids came home and found me like this,
yes,
led you to a path of now working for, the most world-renowned personal developer, right? Tony Robbins. Everybody knows who Tony Robbins is. So this is what I'm trying to make people understand, and that's what we talked about in the beginning when we started the episode. You went from the darkest moment in your life. You were ready to end it. It was over. In your mind, there was nothing left to live for. The pain was too much. To now working for one of the most motivational people we could actually ever introduce ourselves to, right?
There's many that would say he's exactly as you just described. And I would agree with you 100%.
So life for you, regardless of how bad it was, look at how it can turn in an instant.
Well, I remember reading one time that it was a college football coach, and I don't remember what coach it was, but I remember him saying, "Life is never as good as it seems. Life is never as bad as it seems. Reality is somewhere in the middle."
That's an excellent quote.
Right? Yeah, and I love that. So that was 2003 when I took over. 2005, we set a world record in London. We walked 12,300 people.
Wow.
Now, and I want full disclosure here. When I say world record, Guinness was not there, but I'm 99.9999% sure that that's the biggest firewalk on the planet of all time, London 2005. I don't think anything's ever come anywhere close to that other than another Tony Robbins Firewalk. So that was 2005. Well, in 2014, I'm driving down the road and my phone rings. And it's a company called Google. And Google wants to know, are you the Dave Albin that does the Firewalks for Tony Robbins? Yes, I am. What can I do for you? They said, well, we'd like to actually talk to you about hiring you as long as you're not under any non-compete or under any contractual obligation with his company. I'm like, nope, homeboy's a free agent. What you got going on?
That's amazing.
And they're like, we want to do a gig in Mountain View at corporate headquarters for 148 of our executives. I'm like, okay, well, I'm available that day. I'm like, so, what's your budget for this? And they told me. I looked at it, I went, I can work with you guys. So that was a real turning point. That's when the light bulb went off for me, Bill. Because when I got there, and we actually ended up doing a glass walk. We couldn't do the Firewalk because they wanted to do it in the middle of the day. I don't do Firewalks in the middle of the day. It's got to be nighttime for safety issues. I got to be able to see the color and the brightness of those coals. And they were good with that. Glass walk worked for them. At one of the lunches, I'm sitting at a table with other Google executives, and one of the female executives turned to me and she said, "So Dave, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She goes, "Do you know what you have or what you're, who you are?" I'm like, "I don't know what you mean by that." She goes, "Look, we're Google, right? We know we've got some information. We know the statistics. What we're saying is that there's a huge marketplace for what you do in corporate America. And you may want to consider doing that because you're at the top of the mountain. People are going to come to you because you're the expert.
Oh, yeah.
You're Tony Robbins' guy.
Yep.
So you've got built-in credibility. So we're not trying to tell you what to do. We're just saying it may be something you want to consider." Well, I took that to heart. And I did. In fact, I went back to Google the next year. And you know what, Bill? The next thing I knew, I was at NASA.
Wow.
I was at Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Remax, Chick-fil-A, Heineken, the Entrepreneur Organization. Hell. And the next thing I know, I'm on the Bearded Beast podcast, for God's sakes. Right? I mean, really. I mean that. You just don't know.
No, you don't.
And again, and like your audience right now, right? Who knows who I don't know who's out there listening. They may be struggling with a family member or a neighbor or a coworker or a family member, whatever, that's struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. And I tell everybody, look, man, if you're struggling and you need help, I'm here. This June I'll have 35 years of sobriety. I've been in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of AA meetings. I've been around thousands and thousands of people who have this calamity. And so I've always told my story. I've always been very transparent with it, very vulnerable. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I'm not proud of it. And who better to help another alcoholic or a drug addict than a recovering drug addict or alcoholic? It's how AA works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the beauty. I want to say something about that. The AA gives you the 12 steps, right? And those 12 steps help put your life back together. You make amends. You face your shortcomings. You face your character defects. You're able to go back and make amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Then you go into the maintenance steps, and you basically keep your side of the street clean, and then you help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And then you've got the 12 traditions that teach you how to live within the AA program. Well, in the middle, Bill, it's called the preamble. This is my favorite spot because it said in there, and I remember reading it early on, like the first day I was there, it said, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I am responsible. And I took that to heart.
Yep.
And which just led me, and then you get in the personal development industry, and the next thing I know, I'm learning, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's a universe.
Yeah,
right. It's a universal code. So merging again the personal development industry and AA is just a magical combination. And so here I am now, and I've got this company, and so a couple of years ago, if we sent you a couple of people, and I said, for you, yeah, I'd do that. And so that opened me up to creating what I call the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy. And so I've got a special gig going on this October, Firewalk Academy, and I'll give all your listeners here a code at the end of your broadcast here. And if they use that code, they can come to my academy, and I will teach them all these skills so they could go back in their respective businesses, whether they're a life coach or they're a mentor, or maybe they're an entrepreneur, a business owner. They work, in a company. They get sent here by their company, whatever. The bottom line is they'll come and they'll spend a week with me, and then they'll graduate, and they'll be able to, be a corporate team building extraordinaire. So again, I'll give them a code here at the end, and they can go to my website. And if they're interested and it resonates with them, they would like to become a master Firewalk instructor, they'll come spend a week with me, and we'll do it for them.
Yeah, that is awesome, because I was going to ask you, where can my listeners reach out to you? How can they find out about this? How can someone sign up for a Firewalk? I want to do one myself. Cool.
Well, we certainly make that happen. I would love to do that for you and any of your circle of influence, Bill. 100% would be absolutely awesome. So basically, all they have to do is just go to www.firewalkadventures.com. So Firewalk Adventures is one word. Everything's there. My calendar's there, how to get a hold of us. So if there's a company out there and they're having challenges, right? A lot of dissension going on in companies right now because of March of 2020, changed the world. So, a lot of people are pissed off at each other because, well, I wore a mask. Well, I didn't. Well, get a vaccine. Well, don't get a vaccine. Well, I love Donald Trump. I hate Donald Trump. Yeah. I mean, oh my God. There's more dissension going on in companies right now than ever in our planet's history. And CEOs know they better fix it.
Oh, they better.
Because if they don't, guess what? You got people that are not getting along. It's gonna just tear your production apart. And so the beauty is you can bring them to a firewalk, and the fire doesn't care about any of that crap. The firewalk, man, when it's your turn to walk, and it builds such unity. It builds such camaraderie. It brings them back together humanistically, just like when I was talking earlier when I was at that event. I did the firewalk that night. The next day, boom, here's all these people getting along. It was just so beautiful and so magical. It was just absolutely gorgeous to watch that. Well, same thing with your company. So, if you've got a mission statement and a vision, or you're launching a product or whatever, and you want to blow it out of the water, then you can hire us, tell us what's going on. I'll sit down with the CEO or the owner of the business or whoever, and we'll create a firewalk specifically for your company and your organization and what's going on in your company at that time. So it's custom designed.
Wow.
And I include a board break, right? So we incorporate the board break. So I teach them a martial arts move, and there's a process, a proprietary process I have that I incorporate the board break with the firewalk. I do a really magical prayer, if you will, at the fire. My job, though, is I'm really, so committed and focused to literally creating at least a top 10 experience and all of those people who come to our events live.
No, that's amazing. And I just hope everybody realizes, you went from putting a gun in your mouth to now doing this for people, companies, CEOs, and you're making life-changing experiences for them, right? Because the Firewalk, that's what it's about. It is a life-changing experience, right?
Oh, it's off the chart. I've never seen anything like it. When companies get together and they do stuff, right, there's a lot of things they can do. They get together, they go golfing, they go on scavenger hunts, they may go on some kind of philanthropic thing where they build bicycles and take them to the community. All those things are cool. They're awesome. But it's not going to create the paradigm shift that a firewalk's going to make. It's not going to happen. And
right.
So, again, my job is to knock that experience out of the park. And so that's what we do. And it's magical, man. It's really, again, and it's an experience where you go, yeah, that was, you never forget it. I'll often do people go to seminars and they put a really cool speaker on stage and they talk and they're great. But at the end of the day, if you go back and interview them, they did that a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2018. They went and interviewed some 17,000 people that had been to events, all kinds of different events where there were speakers. And when they went back and interviewed them, less than what? I think it was less than 2% remembered the name of the speaker, and less than 5% had any takeaways from the event they went to.
Yeah, I mean, I believe I believe that statistic, but I believe what you're saying also is you're not going to forget a firewalk. You're not going to forget walking on those coals.
Nope. Go Google if you want to see something really remarkable. And this video really depicts what's going on with somebody. Go Google Oprah's Firewalk.
Okay.
She literally firewalks. I mean, during the Firewalk, it was 2010 at the LA Convention Center. She was losing her shit, man. She was freaking out. She was just like me. She was freaking. I was freaking. She was freaking. So I can really relate to what was going on in her head at that time. And, again, with some encouragement from Tony, she walks. Well, the incredible part about that is after she finished, she walks over and the film crew goes with her and she makes one of the biggest business decisions of her life. Within 2 minutes of firewalking, that woman made one of the biggest decisions in her career. She created what was called, or is now called, the next chapter.
Wow.
So what was ever going on at that moment in her head, man, the Firewalk cleared it up, and she was crystal clear where she was going to go with her life and her program. And she does it right on camera. So it's there for the watching if your audience wants to go take a peek at it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to check it out myself. And I definitely want to get with you and figure out a way that I can myself and I can bring some people to a firewalk.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I would love to do that, man. Yeah, we can definitely do that. And I promise you, you know what they say, right? People forget what you said, they forget what you did, but they'll never, ever forget how you made them feel.
No, 100%. I totally agree with you. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. And before we close, I have to know the answer to this question. Did your children really firewalk at ages 6 and 9?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
So just real quick, we were in Secaucus, New Jersey, the New York event, UPW, and I was there with the kids. And Tony knew that both my kids were there. Both of them were ready to firewalk. And so we walked all the participants, got all that out of the way, and they were standing over in the shadows. And all of a sudden, Tony looked and he waved them over. And I'm right there with him. And my daughter walked up, and Tony, God, I don't even know if I can tell this. So Tony took her by the hand. I took her by the hand, and we walked her across the fire, Tony and I did.
Wow.
And my daughter was 6 years old. And then my son, Davey, came up, and, he's 9. And Tony bent down, and what he said to him was, "I love you, and I love your daddy. Go." that was it. And
what an experience.
Since that time, my kids have walked many, many times, and they are both very, very, very successful human beings today. And if they've learned anything of being in the Robbins environment, is that they've learned the art and science of achievement versus fulfillment.
Wow.
Because Tony will tell you, achievement without fulfillment is total failure.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? People make lots of money.
Yep.
But they don't feel fulfilled.
Yep.
Come hang out in my world, and I'll show you both.
Yeah, and I definitely need to get with you. You're in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'm in the Appalachian Mountains.
All right.
You ever heard of Boone, North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah, App State. Man, my son was going to App, and he just got his dream job. So I'm about 25 minutes west of Boone in Ashe County, North Carolina, and I'm in the top northwestern part of the state of North Carolina. My little cabin here is nestled up here in the mountains, and we have clean air. It's just magical up here. It's spectacular, very majestic. I've got mountain spring water coming into my cabin that we drink and that we bathe in. So yeah, I'm living here because I chose to live here.
Yeah, we're not too far apart, so I definitely want to get with you on the side and let me figure something out. I want to come out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll figure it out. Where are you?
I'm in Virginia, so we're not too far away.
Where in Virginia?
I'm Charlottesville. You ever hear of Charlottesville?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely. UVA, you betcha.
Yeah, UVA. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I had a farm in Virginia. I was in the Shenandoah Valley. I was in Woodstock, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
81.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, you're not far at all. In fact, I got a buddy that lives in Charlottesville. He's coming in Memorial Day. I haven't seen this guy in years, and he's coming in here to hang out with me for the weekend.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. I mean, the information you share with my listeners, they need to pay attention to what I was saying and what you were saying, that regardless of where you are, your weakest, your darkest moments, look at where it can lead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't know. Stay open, stay teachable, practice good rituals, take care of yourself, and make sure you create the right story.
Right.
Everything in life is a story.
No,
it
absolutely.
doesn't matter what happens to us, right? Good or bad or indifferent. We create the story. We have our finger on the on and off button, and we have our hand on the volume control.
Yes, we
do. And if you want to change your life, change your story.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Well, thank you so much for sharing your information, your story, and I'm blessed to know you. And I look forward to getting together and doing a firewalk.
That'll be great, man. Thanks, Bill. I really appreciate you having me on your show, and I want to thank your audience too. And that code that I told that I would give is 6828. If you contact us, give us that code, give me that code, give my staff that code, and we'll know what that means.
6828. We got it. Thank you so much,
all right,
Dave.
Man. All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Take care, bro.
Bye.
I'll be remembered, but will you. Bill McDonald's the baddest that I would turn to. CEO with the shit that's a dope motherfucker. He'll always win, there's no going under. The top of the crown resting on his head. The beast is alive, he'll never be dead. If he dreamt before, bring it back to life. Push harder for it, let it survive. Show courage and strength, it's okay to be scared, but don't let it stop you, always stay prepared. Bill Showman School, they're just not beginning. Winners fucking win, losers talk about winning.